Lines are open now at 314-969-9797 or toll free at 866-455-9797. Jamie Allman.
Your mind. Take a chance. I'm the first in line. Honey, I'm still free. Take a chance on me.
Well, the reason why
If you need me,
I'm playing this is because my trusty Twitter people notified me that Benny Anderson from ABBA is a horse trader. So,
Nice.
yeah. So there you go. That's why I'm playing some ABBA. ABBA. Is it ABBA or ABBA? I don't know. I don't care.
It's not ABBA.
Whatever. I don't. Do you really think I'm occupying my mind with that
No, but
kind
that
of?
just sounds so weird.
I know.
ABBA.
I know. I don't care. By the way, somebody said that PBS just signed a 9-figure deal with HBO for Sesame Street. Stevie Church has notified me that, so they don't need our money. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Wallace. You know, about that, Katie Bailey, Chris Wallace, who is one of my producers here, had the typical raw reaction to the notification that President Trump might be cutting funding for PBS, and which is, I don't know how I feel about that. I love PBS, but my argument is, because I said, yeah, but you can still have your PBS, but somebody else will pay for it, right?
Well, no, I kind of agree, and look, the argument could well be, and I understand the argument about that there's special kind of programming and all of that, but at a certain point, and I don't know how long PBS has existed, but it's got to be decades now, huh? I mean, it's got to be well over a quarter century that you've got to be supported by the market. Now, I understand the question is, if you're not going to do commercials, is there enough, private funding, foundations, personal donations, those god-awful fundraisers would they have where you see about 2 minutes of programming and then they do 30 minutes of commercials where they tell you that they'll give you a tote bag if you give money. But having said that, you can make the argument that that it's time for the Corporation of Public Broadcasting to get out of the nest and fly away on its own.
Right. We'll let the liberals finally like the idea of tax cuts for the rich. Because then they'll have money to fund Sesame Street or some other PBS programming. So yeah, we're good. We're changing minds as we go along, and that's true. Listen, I know that when I was a kid, I worked for Wisconsin Public Radio, and I cut my teeth in public radio. But the assumption is that without government funding, that wouldn't necessarily exist. They couldn't call it public radio anymore, obviously, but that kind of outlet wouldn't exist. But that's kind of a conclusion I don't think that can be necessarily reached. That, like, for instance, Sesame Street or some other program wouldn't exist without public funding.
No, well, Sesame Street. I mean, Sesame Street makes a huge amount of money. It's the Children's Television Workshop, and they've got. And I don't know that they get funded by taxpayer money.
Yeah, right. That show.
Street.
Yeah,
I think that because all you have to do is go to your toy store and you can see all the Sesame Street products that are for sale. But there's a show like Downton Abbey or something like that. Obviously, that would survive, but there obviously are some parts of public broadcasting that you wonder about. But if people believe in public broadcasting, maybe they should fund it themselves. Maybe foundations. Maybe
Well, and
maybe if it's important to you enough, donate $100 to them.
Yeah, sometimes actually the quality could be even better if it's privately funded. But because imagine with private funding,
it'd be as good as all the TV that we see on entertainment, on the broadcast networks. Lord knows that's wonderful television.
Well, the Fox
I'm
News.
kidding. It was a joke.
Well, I know. Fox News Sunday's an awesome show, but you don't do it with public funding. So, yeah, you can do that. But imagine what private funding would have done for Sesame Street. For instance, with private funding, if they had a little more money, they could actually have an answer to the question, can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? Because with public funding, there was never an answer to how you get there.
The whole point of this segment so that you could tell that joke.
No.
I mean, because it was a long way to go.
Right, I know, but think what George Soros could do to fund an answer to can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? I'm just saying.
Gosh, here we go.
So, so you got...
Get ready. You're not quite there yet, but get ready to hit the button.
Okay, I am. I always have it. At the
you
ready,
don't have
my
it,
friend.
but you're looking for it now.
Are you on my webcam? My
No,
Arrow Supply.
but I can. Do you have a webcam?
Yeah, we do. It's the Arrowhead Building Supply webcam.
Oh my gosh, here we go.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, we got three of them. One pointed at me, another pointed at Denise, who's our esteemed co-host and news maven, and then there's a wider shot.
I wish I had a maven. I don't have a maven.
I know. So you got.
I guess it's better than other things he could call me, so we'll go with that.
Yeah, true.
You've got a big show coming up.
Well, we do. We don't have it all booked, but we do have part of it booked. We've got Paul Ryan, and it's going to be very interesting to see because I know he's been out a lot this week, but there are a couple of big things that are going to happen. I think it goes before the Budget Committee today, the Bryan healthcare plan, and they're not going to get it through with the way it is now. I'm not saying through the Budget Committee, but through the House. So they're going to have to do something called a manager's amendment, which is basically at the last minute they're going to go meet with the conservatives, go meet with the moderates, see what they can get enough votes to pass, and then amend it at the last minute. So we'll be talking to the speaker about that. We'll also be speaking about this budget which came out that you and I have been talking about, and obviously. Look, I don't think the Corporation for Public Broadcasting is one of the more controversial cuts. There are some that there's a lot of heartburn about. One is about a 30%, about a third cut in EPA, and I know some people aren't fans of it, but other people are and think it's important to protect our air and water, and you question whether if you cut things by a third, you can do it as well. And also, massive cut to foreign aid. And there are some conservative Republicans who say, look, foreign aid and soft power, as it's called, it keeps us out of a lot of wars, keeps us out of a lot of conflicts, and it may be a short-term savings, but in the long term it's going to cost you a lot more. And actually there are a number of generals who have said that if you don't have diplomacy and you don't have foreign aid and soft power, it ends up being a lot more expensive because you end up with hard power and troops in the end.
How much money actually? I don't always understood that the amount of money we give in foreign aid really isn't that much anyway.
No, that's true.
Okay.
I mean, and that's the problem. Here, let's get real here. The problem is that the president and this budget basically takes about 2/3 of the budget off the table. There is obviously it doesn't do anything for debt service, the amount of interest we have to pay on the national debt. It doesn't touch Medicare or Medicaid or Social Security. And that's 2/3 of the budget. So now you're trying to do everything through 1/3 of the budget, and they're making major increases. Some say not enough, but major increases over $50 billion to the Pentagon and to the VA and to DHS. Not saying those are wrong, but that means then if you're going to have a revenue neutral budget, then you got to find it in, as you say, in kind of nickels and dimes in areas that have already been cut pretty drastically, like foreign aid, like the Environmental Protection Agency, and it's almost the opposite of Willie Sutton. He was a famous bank robber, and they said, "Why do you rob banks?" And he said, "That's where the money is."
Right.
This administration, and frankly a lot before it, are unwilling to go where the real money is, which is make entitlement savings, and we're going to have to do it because they're going to go bankrupt. So at some point, you're going to have to make cuts, and it's a lot easier and a lot less drastic if you do it sooner rather than later when the system is on the verge of bankruptcy.
Right, and even though generally the argument that, well, it's not very much that we spend, I mean, it is still money, and it is still coming out of our hides, and I guess you could even go to the foreign aid budget and say, well, we'll cut out the health aid, but keep the humanitarian and economic development, or whatever. There's a lot of different ways you can cut it. Can I ask you something, though, and I don't want to make this too much of a conspiracy theory, but let's put it this way, with this health, with Obamacare 2.0, or whatever people want to call it.
Right.
What do you think that President Trump, I mean, even though he went in and he said, well, I could let Obamacare just keep existing and watch it fail, but we'd be hurting so many people, I don't really want to make people pay and punish people by not doing anything. But in the end, if this does fail, do you really?
If the bill doesn't get through.
If it doesn't get through, is it really going to hurt him as much as it actually just hurts the Republicans? You know what I mean? Is it going to be seen as a failure of his?
Well, I think it's less that it'll be seen as a political failure. After all, he's not running till 2020. A lot of things will happen between now and then. But if a president puts as much of his personal power, his personal weight behind it as this one has, and his own party. I mean, this can pass just with Republican votes without a single Democratic vote. If he can't marshal a majority, a simple majority in the House and the Senate, then he has almost no clout. I mean, there's no fear left where Republicans will, gosh, I can't go against the president because I'll get hurt for it. And I'm a big believer that success begets success. You succeed in this. Maybe it isn't what you started with. I mean, if there's a bill that he can sign that he says repeals and replaces Obamacare, he looks like a winner. And then when he puts the next thing up, which will probably be tax reform, then it makes it that much easier for him to pass that. Conversely, if he loses on this, then I think there's a feeling among conservative Republicans and some moderate Republicans, and it's just, we can ignore this guy and there's no price to pay, or, if we can go on our own. So I think when you say, will he be hurt, I don't think he'll be hurt in the sense that it hurts him for 2020. It hurts him in the sense that I think it makes him less powerful as the legislator-in-chief.
Right. And do you believe, as it looks like he supports the Ryan plan, but do you think he's just doing that to be supportive, or do you think he really does support the Ryan plan?
I think he wants a plan. I think he wants something to sign. I don't think that in the end he cares desperately about what the details of the plan are, and it seems almost no question. I think he just wants, at this point, the Ryan plan to pass the House, then to get to the Senate, and know he's going to have to go through a whole negotiation, because they don't have the votes there. I mean, there's no question. They just don't have the votes. They can only lose 2, and there are probably a half dozen, both on the center and on the right, who are opposed to this plan. I think he's going to have to try to negotiate a whole new plan and then try to get it through the Senate and then have the House pass that. And I think what he cares about, less the details, more the signing and, being able to say, I repealed and replaced Obamacare. And I kept a campaign promise. I mean, in fairness to him, you can say, well, he maybe should have gone on something else first. But, what was the first thing he and a lot of Republicans said? The day we get in there, we're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. And, they lose a lot of faith. They break faith with their supporters if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Having said that, I'm not sure that he should have done it. Did you ever see the movie Chinatown?
Yeah.
Do you remember how Jack Nicholson just hated Chinatown, and when people would say Chinatown, he'd almost get a shiver because crazy things happened in Chinatown? I think that's the way Obamacare is, and both for Obama and for Trump. And I wonder if he shouldn't have just started. In the end, I think that more important than Obamacare is, in terms of why he got elected, was the idea that he was going to boost the economy, he was going to protect American jobs, he was going to boost hiring, and I wonder whether some kind of big, grand deal on tax reform and infrastructure, which might have gotten some Democratic support, would have been a wiser way to go.
Yeah, right.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, at some point, though, the reality is when it was broached that they should basically just repeal and replace it, the bottom line is, if it comes across as being a situation where it's just Obamacare 2.0, people aren't gonna like that, and they're gonna make actually people like Ryan pay in the midterms as opposed to President Trump.
Well, yeah, yes, but I'm just saying, in terms of what goes first, I wonder if he wouldn't have been better off going with tax reform and infrastructure, and maybe, without saying it, maybe you just let Obamacare get worse, and the premiums go up, and the insurance companies bail out, and people have fewer choices, and then it becomes an easier political, because nobody seems to come out, even the president, when he passed Obama back in 2010, it ended up derailing a lot of the rest of his agenda, and there was a lot of second-guessing. Should he have gone with Obamacare first, or should he have gone with something else? Yeah,
I don't know why tax reform always seems to be kind of last on the list. I don't know why that.
Let's say you pass. Look, the economy is doing better, and we see that with the interest rates rising. We see what's happening on Wall Street. What if you'd passed a major tax reform bill and also an infrastructure bill? Because Democrats would have probably made a trade there and really get the economy going great guns. How happy do you think a lot of Trump supporters and other Americans would have been happy about it?
Oh, I would be. And now apparently it might be August or not even this year that they get to it. So,
right.
Who knows? Hey, by the way, you mentioned about sending a check to public TV and that kind of thing.
Yes.
I one time when when Channel 9 here, they do these, they have these concerts on the air, and then they sell, sometimes they'll sell tickets to events. And one time I was so far ahead of the game, it was Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson, and they were coming to St. Louis. And it was in 6 months, but I still made a contribution to public TV to get the tickets.
Right.
So I got the tickets and then kept them in my car. And then one night, I'm sitting there. I'm just at home.
I'm wondering where you're going with this.
I'm sitting.
Go ahead.
I'm sitting there at home. And it's 10 o'clock in the evening. Going, is tonight the concert? And I totally missed the concert. And so I contributed to public TV, but I missed the concert.
Well, then you can write it off as completely charity because you didn't get anything. I've had things like that happen. You have it in the books for 6 months, and when the day comes, or sometimes the day after, and you go, "Oops."
Yeah, right.
You, my friend, are a dope.
I know.
There you go.
It was really
you
bad.
You earned it. It took a while, but you earned it.
No, I was just trying to get to it. All right, so Fox News Sunday.
We'll have Paul Ryan, and we've got a lot of other stuff going on. Obviously, you've got the wiretapping story. There are going to be hearings, public hearings next Monday. You've got the budget, in addition to Obamacare, and also Monday, the hearings start for Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court, which, when you take a long view of things, may be the most important thing happening, because if he's confirmed, he'll be on the court for 30 years.
Nice. I know. They're making a big push. I just talked to somebody last night on TV because they're actually campaigning for him, but he's gotten some big kudos from Democrats. That's pretty amazing.
He's a really good choice. There have been some false starts in this administration. I think the appointment, the rollout, everything that they've done with regard to Gorsuch. But again, if they want to filibuster it, they can. And then there's the question as to whether the Republicans will exercise the nuclear option on Supreme Court justices and pass it with a simple majority of 51 and not a supermajority of 60.
All right. Well, now we'll be watching. And if you pass Geraldo in the hallway, please tell him, have no worries. It is true that you found more in Al Capone's vault than Rachel Maddow did in Trump's taxes. So congratulate him for me, please.
Absolutely, and let me just say, there's been a lot of talk about the White House bowling alley, and that they have these things there. Guess what I did yesterday? I bowled at the White House bowling alley.
Wow, how cool is that?
It really was cool. The only thing that wasn't cool about it was my bowling. I hadn't bowled in probably 15 years, and it wasn't pretty.
There's nothing more awkward than suddenly bowling after not doing it for a decade.
Somebody said to me, don't worry about hurting your hip. I said, I'm not going to hurt my hip. The only thing I ended up hurting was my pride.